Good morning. Good morning. Morning. The Committee on Rules hereby convenes this meeting for the record. Today is April 13th, 2023, and the time is now 9:27 Chamorro Standard Time. A first notice for this meeting was sent to all media outlets Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, and posted on the Government of Guam Public Notices portal that same day. A second notice was sent to all media outlets on Monday, April 10th, 2023, and posted on the Government of Guam Public Notices portal that same day. Rules of engagement, the chair will recognize a member who raises their hand to make a motion. The chair will rule a member out of order if they have not been recognized by the chair. The chair will abide by Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. The chair will note that a second to a motion is not required. The chair will also note that the standing rules does not recognize the potential items listing upon a motion carried by the affirmative vote of 7 members will items be considered. The Core Director, Ms. Cameron Nelson, welcome to the team, will now call the roll of members.
Chairperson, Senator Barnett.
Present.
Vice Chairperson, Senator Perez. Speaker Terlahi. Vice Speaker Munya Barnes. Senator Shelton. Senator Parkinson. Senator Kanata. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Nicolas. Senator Brown. Senator Duenas. Senator Fisher. Senator Tidegui. Mr. Chair, there is a quorum.
Thank you. The chair will now recognize the Vice Chair, Senator Sabina Perez, on the motion to excuse members not present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make the motion to excuse members not present for voting purposes.
Are there any objections?
No objection.
Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. Colleagues, the core meeting minutes can be found on the Google Drive folder dated 4/13/23, labeled 3, approval of 37th Guam Legislature core meeting minutes. The chair will again recognize the vice chair on a motion to approve the core meeting minutes for the March 16th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make the motion to approve the core meeting minutes, subject to corrections.
Any objections?
No objections.
Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. We'll now move on to item number 4 on the core agenda, document tracking. I will now recognize Vice Speaker Tina Munya Barnes, who is here in place of Legislative Secretary Senator Amanda Shelton, who has prepared the document tracking. And again, colleagues, these documents are available on the Google Core Meeting Drive dated April 13, 2023. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Sidzus Masi, Mr. Chairs and Manana Sidzus, many of God's blessings to all of us here this morning. On behalf of the Legislative Secretary's report, it is as follows. The appointments by the Governor, there are 23 appointments submitted by Governor Lulian Guerrero. To date, there was 1 appointment confirmed during the March 3rd, 2023 session, 1 appointment confirmed during the March 27, 2023 session. Total of 2 appointments confirmed. Of the remaining 21 appointments, they are pending confirmations, 1 withdrawal, and 0 have extended beyond the authorized 90-day term limit. There is 1 zone change request at this time, and just for the record, it is application number 2021-13, MC Polino Family LLC. On rules and regulations, Mr. Chair, there are 3 rules and regulations requested this time. 1 coming from the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, which is the fee package. 2 from the Department of Public Health and Social Services, the proposed rules and regulations governing the institutional playgrounds, and the proposed rules and regs governing the barber and beauty shops. And that is my report to date. I do have a motion to put an appointment on the Secretary's behalf when we get to that motion, sir. Sainamasi.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Speaker. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, sub-item B, ratification of referrals, re-referrals. Colleagues, these documents can be found again on the Google Drive folder, and it's labeled 04B, legislative item logs. Does the chair hear a motion to ratify the referral of bill number 80-37 COR and 81-37 LS through 85-37 LS and 86-37 core through 90-37 core? Any objections?
No objections.
Hearing no objection, the motion passes. The chair will note that there's been no resolutions referred since our March 16, 2023 core meeting. Does the chair hear a motion to ratify the referrals of appointments?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any objections?
No objections.
Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. We'll now move to the items cleared for consideration of the session agenda. Committee reports for the following items have been duly filed with the Committee on Rules. Colleagues, I'd like to note the following committee reports that have been filed with the Committee on Rules and are available on our legislative website for review and public view. Would you want to do this? Yeah. I'd like to recognize Vice Chair Senator Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to place on the session agenda Bill number 1-37 COR, sponsored by myself. It's an act to amend Section 24105 of Chapter 24, Title 11 Guam Code annotated relative to excluding the value added to buildings from the installation of photovoltaic solar panels and roof tiles for purposes of levying real estate taxes.
Any objection? Any objections? No? Okay. No second. We're good. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also move to place Bill number 8-37 COR as amended by the Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning, sponsored by Senator Jesse Lujan. It's an act to add a new section 5221, 5222, 5223, 5224, and 5225 to subarticle B of Article 3, Chapter 5, Title 5, Guam Code annotated, ensuring the online accessibility and timely posting of any and all Government of Guam invitation for bids and requests for proposals on a dedicated government website.
Any objections?
No objection.
So moved.
Thank you, colleagues. I move to place on the session agenda Bill number 17-37 COR as amended by the Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning, sponsored by Senator Tello T. Taitigui, co-sponsored by Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Sabina Flores Perez, Senator Roy Anthony Benavente Kanata, and Senator Jesse A. Lujan. It's an act to add a new section 77103 to Article 1 of Chapter 77, Title 12, Guam Code annotated, relative to ensuring fiscal responsibility by limiting the total authorized amount of tax credits each year to the amount set aside by Liheslaturan Guåhan as a general fund reserve, deficit reduction rainy day fund.
Any objections? Motion carries. Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's one more item I'd like to place on the session agenda. It's not on the list, but it did clear core. We did receive an email that it cleared core, and it's on the website currently. It's for Bill number 18-37 COR as amended by the Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor Procurement, Research, Statistics, and Planning. It's an act to add a new section 77103 to Article 1 of Chapter 77, Title 12, Guam Code annotated, relative to providing for the responsible management of public finances by implementing a 10-year sunset provision for all tax credit programs.
Any objections?
No objections.
So moved.
All right, that concludes my motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Anyone else? Senator San Augustine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have Bill 75-37 LS as amended by the Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriation, introduced by myself, co-sponsors Vice Speaker Tina Rose William Barnes, Senator Amanda Shelton, Dwayne Nicholas, Roy Kanata, and William Parkinson. An act to amend Section 2 of Chapter 1 and Section 2 of Part 1, Chapter 3, and to add a Section 13 to Chapter 11, all of Public Law 36-107, General Appropriation Act of 2023, relative to providing assistance for private businesses in their recovery from the economic effects of the COVID pandemic through a program established by the Guam Economic Development Authority.
Any objections? No. Oh, sorry. Senator Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I did want to ask, why was this the only bill that was heard? I know there were two others that were introduced relative to the same
It's at core.
issue.
It's at core right now.
Yeah. I believe we did hear the three measures, but this was the only one that was ready for
That
placement.
made it. The other
Right,
two
yeah.
are with core right now, and if core clears it, I have no problem in
Yeah.
adding it on.
Well, just in all fairness, I think it might be more palatable if those of you that all introduced a very similar measure perhaps co-sponsor, so that it's not a one-sided bill here, because I know we had two other colleagues that introduced very similar legislation actually prior to this bill.
Yeah, well, if Core would a green light that it's available, if it's clear, then we can add it now. I know for a fact that 75 already made it in. Is Core gonna declare that it made it through and it's clear?
Mr. Chair, if we,
Yes, ma'am.
if we just clear the process as committed by the protocol on the rules and regs for COR, I think it would be, and there would be a reason why those bills are still in committee right now,
Yeah,
probably going through
yeah.
legal.
I mean, speaking on my
technical-
measure,
so-
Senator, mine's not ready for placement, which is why it's not here, but yeah. So I don't have a problem moving forward with whatever is
Okay.
ready.
Well, I'm just inquiring because I think in all fairness, those bills were introduced prior to this bill.
Sure, yeah.
Do you want me to continue on to the
Please.
next? Okay,
Yes, sir.
well, I have an appointment now.
Oh, wait, do we, any objection to moving
No
that bill?
objection.
Yeah, 75.
No objection.
Okay, okay. Motion carries. Senator San Augustine?
I have a confirmation of, to be placed on the agenda. I don't know if you're at that point yet.
Not yet, sir.
Okay, I'll wait until then.
Thank you. Anyone else on any bills? Okay. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, we're currently routing Bill number 20-37. It's relative to restoring access to federal public assistance for otherwise eligible individuals with felony drug convictions. This is a bill introduced by Senator William Parkinson, Teresa Lai, Roy Canata, Dwayne St. Nicholas. The public hearing was held on March 15. It is being routed, and yeah, I would like to put that on a potential list.
We don't do potentials anymore.
Why not?
You guys took it off. It's not in the letter.
Huh?
Let's take a short recess, please. Thank you. And we are back. Thank you. Speaker Terlahi, you are recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was making a motion to add a bill to the potential items list. The potentials list is something we do when the committee reports are not ready today. They're being routed, but we still have a lot of days before the session for that to be completed. A potentials list puts these onto a list that will be published in the newspaper and conform with the open government law to give notice to everyone that these are the bills that we might put on the agenda when we are in there, that we can act on. So when we get into the session, it requires another vote on the session under motions to add items to the agenda from the potential items list. And for example, this is what we had to do when the vetoes had not been received yet. We added to the potential items list that we might receive these vetoes, and we wanted to be able to make motions to act on those during that session. So we gave notice to the public even before we received the vetoes that we might receive this. And this is what I'm trying to do, is give notice to the public that we're routing several bills. And because of the notice requirements and the publication requirements, we have to do this today in order to get it published 5 days prior to the session. And we can't add them on the session day because we've changed our rules and our laws. So this is how we can comply, is by adding these, making a list of potential items that have had public hearings, that are being routed, and in the end, when we're on the session floor, it still takes a motion to put those actually on the agenda or not, but we have already given notice to the public that we might act on those. So everyone can read the reports and be aware of those prior to any action by this body. And this is not action by the body, this is just to put it on an agenda, and I have several bills to do this. In addition to Bill 20, I have a Bill 73, which is the opioid antagonist emergency bill. I also have the 3 bills that just had a hearing recently. 49, which is regarding penalties, sentencing. I believe that's sponsored by Senator Fisher. Bill 7, sponsored by Senator Dueñas. Bill 21, sponsored by Senator Dwayne Nicholas. And Bill 79. So not 49, 79.
I'm sorry, Speaker. Could you?
So my motion, I'm starting with one, well, because we do it one by one, but I'm giving notice that I'm trying to do this for these bills. Bill 20-37. This is the access to public assistance for those with felony drug convictions. Bill number 73, which is the opioid access for bystanders.
Ma'am, we'll just do it one at a time, if
Okay,
you don't mind.
sure.
Right on. So just start at the
Ma'am,
first.
Yeah, but just for
Mr. Chair.
discussion purposes.
Senator San Augustine.
And Madam Speaker, I just like to make sure that we all understand these bills that we're identifying to be potential had a public hearing.
Yes.
That's the beauty.
Yes. It's the beauty of it.
If they didn't have, then of course I won't adopt it. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair.
Senator.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to be recognized.
Senator Dueñas, you are recognized.
So, Mr. Chair, I rise to a
Can
point of
you
objection.
turn on your?
Yes, my mic is on.
Okay.
Maybe you don't see the light. Test, test, test. There's no light on this one.
Senator Dueñas, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to a point of objection, and while I understand the argument put forward by the Speaker, this is exactly what we did in the last term that caused so much mayhem and dissension and misunderstanding by the people of Guam. This rules meeting should have eligible items that have cleared rules and have been uploaded to the website and are ready for placement. Potentials is meaningless to the public because they cannot go to the website, they cannot read the reports in full, and even if they're noticed, it's this rules meeting that does the placement of bills. And so the bottom line is, even though there's some sort of courtesy extended here on a mine that was just heard a few days ago, I don't want it placed on a potentials list. I want it fully vetted by the committee because even in this case, Mr. Chair, what we will be looking at is going into next week. I don't even think the full 10 days for public comment would have been even ellipsed before that thing would be loaded. That would be valuable information as well. So I just think we need to stop this practice of potential items. The committees need to make sure they fully do their work and get these bills vetted and to the core on time for uploading by the time we have a core meeting. The only thing I can say subsequent to that, Mr. Chairman, is call another core meeting when other bills are ready. But aside from that, I object to this process. It's not transparent and it's not right.
Duly noted, Senator Duenas. Speaker Terlai?
Yes. I would just take exception to those comments that notice is actually what we are trying to give. Transparency this is the only way to do it, is to publish and not to go back to the old way before the open government law was changed by Senator Brown and myself, that we require notice. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And nothing's going to be put on the session if those reports are not uploaded. There's so many checks and balances and protections built into our system now that the public will have full notice of everything before we act. And that's what I'm trying to do, is give them notice of that. And I'm trying also to not set a precedent where the legislature's hands are tied, because then when we want to remove the governor's emergency powers and put them in our hands, we will not be able to act fast enough, because you will have to wait 5 days to publish a committee hearing. You will have to wait for the committee reports to be all the way completed and cleared by rules, which is not always a matter of how fast the committee works, but other factors as well. And we are trying to be able to deal with those. And you will also have to wait to, again, publish. And even if we try to put this on in a later Committee on Rules meeting, we are publishing our agenda for session. So that's what we can't change at that point. We're not going to be able. And I'm just trying, again, to be reasonable, that if we want a legislature that is able to be transparent, we publish. If we want a legislature that is able to be responsive and flexible, then we publish, but we do not tie their hands. And if you don't want to put it on the floor, I respect that. We don't have to do that. But this has been how Senator San Agustin and I have received the most referrals of any committees in the last term. And this is how we are able to move those bills, many of them Republican bills, many of them, onto the floor, and that is the way. It's because we work hard having hearings with the limited dates that we are allowed, and we work hard routing these reports. Sometimes we can't get votes on them, and we work hard to get the information to compile these reports as swiftly as we can. So I would just ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to respond to those remarks.
Senator Duenas.
First and foremost, I take
There's
exception.
no response.
No,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
I made a motion and I closed on my
He
motion.
just went to
I
you.
closed
Yeah,
on
she
my
closed
motion.
on her
I'm taking
motion,
exception
Senator
to
Duenas.
your comments, Madam Chair. You've made some comments that are not
Senator
correct
Duenas,
in
you're
terms
out of
the
order.
powers of the legislature.
Thank you. Speaker Terlai, could you please reiterate the closure of your motion?
Yes, the motion is to place Bill number 20-37 COR, which is an act relative to restoring access to federal public assistance for otherwise eligible individuals with felony drug convictions, onto the potential items list for the session agenda, which will be published in the newspaper together with the session agenda.
There has been
So
an
that a
objection.
motion can be made when we were under motions to put this onto the
All right,
agenda.
there's an objection. Are there any other objections?
Call for the vote.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm calling for the vote. Senator San Agustin,
Before
yes,
we
sir.
go to the vote, I'd like to first maybe start out with a
Is
motion.
this a point of information? Yeah.
Okay, then.
Are you doing a point of information?
I just wanted, actually, a point of information or
Thank you.
something for everyone to consider. Before we start listing any possible potential, that maybe we start out with to allow the creation of the potential, provided They've had a public hearing. And the reason why is because the bills that are going to be addressed had a public hearing. And it's going to get there. There's 2 bills right now in core. I like to add into the potential. If we're not going to allow the potential without a public hearing, then it doesn't matter. It's going to be objected on every step, and I'd rather but anyway, whatever, Mr. Chair. I'm good.
Duly noted. Calling for the vote. We're going to vote on this? Yeah. All in favor of placing
your hands.
Bill
20
20
-37.
-37 COR onto the session agenda? Please signify by raising your right hand. Motion fell short. Side short.
I'd like to,
Speaker Talai.
thank you, also make a motion to add Bill number 73-37 LS to a potential items list, subject to motion to be added to the agenda on the floor, which is an act relative to further expanding access to opioid antagonists by establishing an emergency opioid access bystander program and allowing insurance companies to cover the cost by adding new subsections 16116, 117, and 118 to Title 10 Guam Code, annotated, Chapter 16, Division 1.
Senator Fisher has a point of inquiry, if that's okay with everyone? Yes, sir. Yeah. Noted. Yeah. Go ahead. Turn on your microphone. What's your point of inquiry, sir?
I think this is directed to the speaker.
You think it is, or is it?
It is.
But just
It
state
is.
the question.
Yeah.
State the question, sir.
The question is this. I'm new to this process,
So am I, sir.
and I'm learning it. I have always been under the impression that a committee report was required before we place something on the agenda. Am I mistaken?
I'll
Duly
yield to
noted.
that question, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am.
Yes, absolutely correct. That's why these are not being motioned onto the agenda. They're being motioned onto a potential items list, and they cannot be put onto the agenda except under motions on the floor, and only if that committee report, as required by law, is available and has been published and all of that.
Thank you very much. May I follow up the question?
Yes. Do you understand the answer?
I do understand the answer.
Okay, so yeah, they require a public hearing and a committee report, and so basically it's a queue that we're putting these bills in a queue so that when we get on the floor, we have the proper number of votes, it can then be added to.
As my understanding, I'll try and phrase this as a question. My understanding is that these bills do not have at least written committee reports, which I think is a little astonishing, since that opiate antagonist bill was heard 2 months ago and it's still not ready. I don't know that this is a question so much, but I've looked at our standing rules and I don't see any reference to a potential bills list. Am I mistaken?
Do you
Mr.
yield
Chair,
to the question?
yes, of course
Madam
I will
Speaker?
yield to
Thank
that
you.
question, and I want to set the facts straight. 2 months ago, April 3rd is not 2 months ago. That's when the hearing was held on this bill.
I stand corrected.
You sure do, Senator.
And in trying to be diligent about it, we have solicited input from insurance companies, and they gave us some good input, and so we followed up with some of those things. That's how we do our jobs. We have to follow up with some of these things after the hearing. But that doesn't mean that the bill is less urgent or that the community doesn't need it right away. And there was no need in our standing rules for a potentials list. We are setting an agenda, and we are publishing potential items that may be placed on that agenda on the floor. We can't do it today, but we can publish tomorrow before session in compliance with the open government law, and that's the only way to get these items and comply with the open government law, is to give notice to the public. There should be no issue with the senators because there is no way the bill is going to make it to the floor without a report. No way. Illegal. It won't happen. there is also, this is our best way of giving notice to the public in advance of our session and giving notice to each other in advance of our session of our best efforts to get these things out into the community. Some of these are critical. Not all of them, but some of them are. And I really, really believe that we need to have a legislature that is responsive and still diligent and still thorough and still compliant with all the laws, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I object, and I'd like to explain my objection.
Senator Duenas.
So, once again, to comments that were made, I take exception to the fact that we cannot address emergencies. We have had 2 emergency sessions in this 37th Guam legislature to address emergencies. Emergencies don't require notice. Emergencies are emergencies. We can do our job. Mr. Chairman, we are a full-time body. If the Speaker can call session any day with 2 hours notice, we can have session all month if we need to. Many legislatures stateside have sessions for months and months on end. So we don't need to say that we're waiting for reports that need to be followed up on in order to have a full committee report so the public can see all the input and to go down this road of potentials. Senator Fisher clearly stated what the rules state for placement on an agenda in a duly held core meeting is a complete bill that's ready and it uploaded to the website so all the people can see and understand. Potentials is just a way that opens the door for mischief. We need to act like a full-time body. If something's urgent, then in another week, we don't have to have session the end of the month next month. We can have session the beginning of the week if it doesn't meet our session. Let's do our job.
Thank you. Objection noted. Senator Brown?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I also have an objection, and there's really no point of us sitting having rules meetings, and this was a major concern we had last term, with a constant listing of potential bills being put on the agenda without the committee reports being put before us prior to a rules meeting so that we have an opportunity, the public, the media, everyone has an opportunity to look at these committee reports and make sure they're properly vetted. I have no objection to trying to meet the public notice requirements. That in and of itself is not the issue here. Why do we bother meeting for rules meetings and then we want to put things on? We had such abuse last term. We would sit and listen to rules meetings that I was not a member of, but we would be putting bills on the agenda, at least the rules committee here was putting bills on the agenda that hadn't even gone to public hearing, hadn't even been publicly heard, and were being put on the session agenda. To avoid that abuse, there's nothing for us to stop from meeting another rules meeting.
Mr. Chair, on a
or
point
show,
of
I'm
personal
sorry, can I
privilege,
have an
please?
opportunity to
On a
provide
point
my
of personal
comments
privilege, sir, you must
without
remind-
being interrupted?
You must recognize me, sir.
I'm sorry.
On a point of personal privilege, you must recognize
Can
me.
you state why you think you deserve a point of personal privilege?
Yes, sir. I was the former Committee on Rules Chair on the 36th Guam Legislature, and as the committee chair, rules and regulations were followed, and those guidelines were put into place. So, sir, I take a point of personal privilege.
Well, you can
Thank
take
you.
your point of personal privilege. I want to complete my statements, which are factual. I was here last year, and I was here the year before in the last previous legislature. And we do not support that continued abuse. If you want to call another rules meeting where we have completed committee reports, then by all means, I will be here. I will be here at every single meeting and every single hearing. I will be here on island to attend and participate. But I think our concerns were legitimate. We brought this up at the beginning of the term. We made it very clear about our positions here. So I don't think it stops the legislature from taking appropriate action. But I think we need to stop this practice of putting bills on the agenda that have not even been brought before this committee, completed and signed, that we have the opportunity to review, and the public and everyone else has the opportunity to review.
Thank you, Senator Brown, for your objection. If there are no further objections, Senator Perez, you can say something. Yes, my vice chair, always. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I've been listening to this conversation intently, and I agree that we shouldn't hold ourselves so to the hard rule that, we don't allow a potential item. I think we could still abide by the open government law, considering that, if the bill is being routed as of today, and it gets cleared and gets on the session agenda, gets on the website within the same day, we could still meet the open government law. And keep in mind that it could be at the bottom of the agenda. So I believe we start session on Friday. We can perhaps take up the bill on Monday, and that would give us more time. And I think it's really important to give us this flexibility. Having been the committee chair for reports, I see the value. I understand the speaker puts a lot of work into her committee reports and making sure everything's vetted. And sometimes we have to wait for some of the testimony in order to amend the bill. So we just like the speaker, I would like to get the bill amended to the best it can be with all the input provided, rather than have a half-worked bill come to the session floor. And I think that's, one of the things we weigh as committee chairs, to ensure that we put the best work forward, and then that is debated on the floor rather than having a rapid change. I think that actually is much better. It puts our body in a better position to have the finalized bill, or at least close to final bill, on the floor rather than a substitute version, which, although it met open government law, it puts the body in more of a pressure to really kind of research and understand the bill further. So again, I would like to argue in favor of more flexibility and take it on a case-by-case basis, I think, at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
May I be heard?
You already spoke.
No, that was a point of inquiry.
Yeah, sure. Senator Fisher? There have been a lot of objections on the motion. So we're going to call for the vote.
I could close on the bill.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Madam
so I
Speaker.
just want to remind everyone, this bill, 73, regarding the opioid access, it had a public hearing on April 3rd. The committee report is being routed. I don't believe that there is any abuse. I am asking for your consideration on a case-by-case basis with each bill as to whether we can give notice to the public that we might act on this in the session. And we will act on it only with a committee report and only with notice given to the public. And I believe this bill is it's critical. I didn't say it's an emergency. It's critical, though. And I would like to see us act at the end of April in our session and not have to wait until the end of May or whenever we have to give. You're not calculating all the notices that have to be given to call another session, which we can do, but then we would preclude public hearings on all your other bills. There's a process here that we're all trying to be respectful of each other and work together and get all these hearings done for everybody's work. Everybody's work. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All those in favor of placing bill number 73-37 COR onto the potential items listing, please indicate by raising your right hand.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. Speaker Terlahi, you're recognized if you would like to continue.
Yes, so I was going to move Bill 7, but the sponsors asked not to be put on. So I'd like to move Bill 21-37 COR, sponsored by Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas. It's an act to add a new Article 8 to Chapter 80, Title 9, Guam Code annotated relative to the creation of provision to authorize judicial corporal punishment as an additional form of judicial sentence.
Objection, same reason.
We'll call for the vote. All those in favor of placing bill number 21-37, aka the caning measure, onto the potentials, indicate by raising your right hand. Motion fails.
If I could just try one more, Mr. Chair.
Go, Taggy, Talumbiahi, Madam
got
Speaker.
Bill number 79-37 COR, introduced by Senator Tom Fisher. It's an act to amend Section 80.37A1 of Article 2, Chapter 80, Title 9, Guam Code, and annotated relative to a special allegation of possession and use of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony. This committee report is also going to be routed. The public hearing was held on April 11. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Objection.
Senator Fisher, objection. You have an objection
I do
on your
have-
own bill?
I do have an objection.
Okay, please.
She just called for the vote.
Okay. Did you want to speak on your objection?
I would if I could.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, why
We're
do you
calling
keep-
for the vote.
She keeps cutting me off. What's up?
Yeah, sorry. All those in favor of placing Bill, ma'am?
79.
79-37 onto the potential items indicate by raising your right hand.
Ooh, only 4 votes this time. Fails.
All right, fail.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I also have a nomination. The hearing was held, the committee report is being routed. It's a nomination for a board member for the Guam Memorial
Are we
Hospital.
in nominations yet?
I don't know.
We're not there yet, ma'am. Any more failures? We're good? Okay, so the chair will note that there have been no resolutions filed with the Committee on Rules since our March 16, 2023 core meeting. We're now on nominations. The nomination, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Confirmation of Christopher A. Cruz to serve as a member of the Guam Ethics Commission for 4 years from July 11th to 2022 to July 11, 2026. Committee report has been filed and uploaded onto the Guam Legislature website as of April 4th.
Any objections?
No objection.
Motion carries. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, the appointment of Mayor Robert RDC Hagåtña to serve as the Mayor's Council of the Guam representative to the Board of Directors to the Guam Visitors Bureau, serve at the pleasure of the Governor. Appointment by Imagahagan Guåhan on March 20th. The appointment packet was forwarded to the Legislature on March 23rd. The appointment packet was forwarded to the Committee for consideration on March 27. A public hearing was held on April 6th at 8:30, and the report was submitted on April 12th. So on the motion, sir. April 12th. Haman. Haman, is he uploaded?
Hasn't been cleared yet.
Oh. Mr. Chair, I just got told by the Committee on Rules, your committee, that it hasn't been uploaded, but it is in the committee getting ready to clear. So I will yield back and hold off on behalf of the Legislative Secretary, but that Mayor Hoffman's packet has been completed and submitted to the Committee on Rules and just waiting uploading.
Duly noted.
So I
Thank
can
you.
try- thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
It's, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, unless you want me to try, the Committee on Rules has just shared that it hasn't been uploaded. It has been completed and submitted on April 12th.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of inquiry.
Senator Fisher?
Yeah, if I could address it to the Vice Chair. What is the...
State your question.
I was doing that. Thank you. What do you think the point is of uploading a document?
Mr. Fisher,
Senator
thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you let me yield?
Yes. Thank you. Do you yield to the question, Vice
Yes.
Speaker? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I yield to that question. The uploading was to give the opportunity for the community, as noted by one of the senators, that give the community the opportunity to have 24-hour review of the packet that has been submitted. So that was the reason for the 24-hour upload notice.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, may I follow up?
State your question, sir.
Yes, this question is again to the Vice Chair. Ma'am, what did I say? Oh, sorry about that, Vice Speaker, sorry about that. I'm sure you'll get over it, but okay, so the public hasn't had notice as of today, as of right now. Is that correct?
Vice Speaker, do you yield to the
Thank you,
question
Ms.
from the good senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As noted for the record, Mr. Chair, the appointment was received on March 20th. It was forwarded on the 23rd. It was set for consideration on March 27th, forwarded to the committee for consideration on the March 27th, and a public hearing was held on the 6th, and the submission of the report was done on April 12th for the record. So I just note that for the record, and yield back to you, Mr. Chair, for further clarification on the upload.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Speaker. Do I hear a motion to place nominations under legislative concurrence? Yeah?
Yes,
Is that where we're at?
call for the vote. Is there an objection to this?
Is there an objection? No? Objection? Okay. Vice Chair, you're recognized with your point of inquiry.
So has the committee report cleared? Are we just awaiting it to be uploaded to the website?
I would just like to note that was it you that asked about the committee reports, that they were received last night and we're in the process of vetting them. So whoever asked that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, since you were addressing me, I would just ask which...
I just was asking you to note for the record that the committee reports on what you're asking about were received last night at 8 p.m. and they're currently being vetted.
Okay, so in other words, we're not following process again.
I'm just telling you that the committee reports were received last night and we're vetting them, which is part of the process that we follow. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, is he asking a question or is he just wants to debate with you? Because
He just wants to debate with me.
Then he needs to save it for the
Thank
courtroom.
you. Yeah. So we're asking for the vote now? Can you restate the motion, Vice Speaker,
On the
if you don't
motion,
mind?
Mr. Chair, to place the appointment of Mayor Robert R.D.C. Hoffman to serve as the Mayor's Council of Guam's representative to the Board of Directors of the Guam Visitors Bureau to serve at the pleasure of the Governor, sir, onto the session agenda for approval. On the motion, there's an objection.
Yeah, there's objections, yeah. Any signify by raising your right hand. Motion, was that a hand raise, Senator Fisher? No, okay. Motion fails, the motion fails. Okay.
Yes.
Speaker Terlahi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to place the nomination of Antoinette M. Kleiner, who was appointed on February 23rd to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees for a 6-year term to fill the unexpired term of Evangeline Allen. The public hearing was held on April 3rd. The committee report was submitted to CORE on April 12th, and it's my understanding it's pending review by CORE. But I'd like to place this onto the session, or the potentials list. If we can't get it onto the session right now, at least onto a potentials list. It's ready to go. We need these board members to serve. The delays that we are going to cause by not allowing a potentials list is going to have us throwing in committee reports very poorly done without making the changes that are necessary in the bills or allowing us to not fill boards promptly. And I've tried to move these as fast as I can, had hearings after the referrals, and I don't think they need to wait an additional month and a half to get onto another session. I think we should put it on the session that we are giving notice of 5 days' notice. And nothing's getting on that agenda without it being uploaded. That's the process. The process is very clearly made to give notice to the public and to all the senators. So I'd ask for their consideration to place this nomination that is pending with the Committee on Rules onto the session agenda. Or let me say onto the potential items list then, because...
Thank you. There's an objection.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a
Senator
recommendation.
Dueñas?
I'd like to make a recommendation. If we have these issues whereby these committee reports are being routed, they've been completed, and they're pending uploading, not bills that have just been heard and otherwise, I want to be clear on this suggestion, then why don't you recess this instead of adjourning it for 24 hours? Get the reports uploaded properly, reconvene this rules meeting, and we can vote then. This would only be for the matters that are so expeditious and they're being put out here as we're going to, obfuscate these boards and we're going to make sure they can't do their job because we don't have the report ready. Recess this committee meeting instead of adjourning for 24 hours, move any other business, because this is the true business of the legislature. We'll reconvene when they're uploaded to the website properly and the public can see, which is what we should be doing, and then we can vote then.
I would
Speaker
have no
Terlahi,
objection to
you're
that
recognized.
suggestion, Mr. Chair, except that, just everyone needs to remember that that sets back the entire time frame for the session, the notices and the reservations of ads that we've been placed, and publishing, it's the publication of notice that really is the issue for me. I want to be able to reserve those spaces and publish those ads when they are due, not run into other problems because we have less than 5 days before session, or to delay the entire session, and then we delay engrossment and, those voting dates. I mean, those are issues for consideration of the whole body, and that's the reason it gets more
Thank you.
complicated.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Chair, giving 24 more hours in a day in
Duly
a
noted.
session
Noted.
should not be an issue.
Very duly
This is our
noted.
job.
Thank you, Senator. You ready to call for the vote on the motion to place the nomination of Antoinette M. Kleiner to the Guam Memorial Hospital Board of Trustees? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Oh, motion carries. Speaker, would you like to redo any of your previous motions? Senator Shelton, you're recognized. Good morning.
Buenas, Mr. Chair. Siette Masi. I'd like to ask for reconsideration on the motion to add the appointment of Robert R.D.C. Hoffman to serve as the Mayor's Council of Guam representative to the Board of Directors of the Guam Visitors Bureau to serve at the pleasure of the Governor.
We have some objections, but all those in favor signify raising your right hand. Motion carries. Speaker Terlahi. Motion to reconsider, Madam Speaker? Yeah. We are, yes. The motion carried for the nomination of Mayor Robert Hoffman.
So now for the vote.
Yeah, we're calling for the vote. And so, thank you.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Any more appointments?
Any more appointments? Oh, yes, Senator Perez, my vice chair, you are recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I understand the discussion that's happening right now. So, but there is an instance in the Guam EPA board. They currently have 4 members, so they can't meet a quorum. They haven't met quorum this month, and it's essential that they meet quorum. And we do have a nominee, Daniel A. Taiting Fong, whose hearing is tomorrow morning, and we will expeditiously work to get this nominee onto the committee report up by this weekend, hopefully, or submit it by this weekend, in order to close this gap. Without the quorum, Guam EPA cannot act on notice of violations. And there are certain things in the community that they're expecting for action to take place with this board. So this is a critical one. So I would like to make the motion to put the nomination of Daniel A. Taiting Fong as member of the Board of Directors for Guam Environmental Protection Agency on the potential list.
Objection. It's not our fault.
Senator
I want to raise my
Brown.
objection and provide a comment, Mr. Chair, having served in Guam EPA. I don't think anyone else at the table has. It's not our issue to deal with the fact that these nominations are coming in late. But again, as we brought up earlier, if it's going to be the practice of this legislature once again to be putting items on the agenda, nominations on the agenda, without public hearings even being held, regardless of the explanation as to why the administration did not expedite, if this was so critical and important, getting a nominee here. And keep in mind, Mr. Chair, these were some of the very basic fundamental issues we were very concerned about in supporting the leadership here, of making sure that we had the level. We talk about process, but then we want to do everything to go around the process. I've been here an hour and a half. Nice that a colleague is finally able to join us so that you can outvote us on the very issue of ensuring public transparency. I think this is an abuse of the legislature. Yes, we have the authority to do it, but is it right that we abuse the process, but expect everyone else in the government to follow it? So please note that this is a major sense of objection of these continued practices. I'm here every day. We can have session, we can have rules meetings to meet the requirements, but to continue to entertain this and actually call these legitimate meetings? Why are we even bothering to having these meetings when we don't even have the documents before us to properly review, when the public doesn't even have the documents before them to public review, and keep putting things on the session agenda and talk about process? Keep in mind, this is a major objection that we had. This is also one of the major reasons we wanted to change the leadership, because we wanted a better direction, a more public and transparent direction, and to continue to abuse this does not show that. So I object.
Thank you for your major objection, Senator Brown. Is there any other objection? Senator Perez, if you want to close, you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to assure the public that we are not abusing our powers here. We are expeditiously going to put this committee report, and it would meet the 5-day notice because not only we're putting on the session agenda as a potential item, but it will be up on the website within five business days from the debate of this nomination. And so I think, when we're talking about putting things on potential lists, as I said earlier, we should take things on a case-to-case basis, particularly on the need that we're seeing. So I think that, I would like my colleagues to consider this in thinking about placing this on the session agenda. And we did, I did, vet this individual prior to the hearing, but the hearing, definitely is an opportunity for my colleagues to hear more about this individual. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perez. On the motion? Yes, on the motion to place the nomination of Mr. Taiting Fong? Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right
On the
hand.
potential list.
Yes. On the potential list, yes. Motion carries, thank you. Come on, guys.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to move to reconsider the vote on Bill number 20-37 COR. It's an act relative to restoring access to federal public assistance for otherwise eligible individuals with felony drug convictions. The committee report is being routed. I think it's pending votes for submission to CORE. I'd like to put notice of this on a potential list so that in case it is cleared by the Committee on Rules and 5 days prior to our session, that we can make a motion to put it onto the agenda during session within 8 votes, if we can get that many.
There's been an objection. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
So on the motion to actually put it on,
Yeah.
that was a motion to reconsider.
Oh, okay, yeah. So now on the motion to place it on the agenda. Thank you. Carries. Yeah.
And just one more. I'd like to ask my colleagues for their reconsideration of putting Bill number 73-37 LS, which is an act relative to further expanding access to opioid antagonists by establishing an emergency opioid access bystander program and allowing insurance companies to cover the cost by adding a new subsection 16116, 16117, and 16118 to Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 16, Division 1. This is another bill. The public hearing was held. The committee report is completed. It is being routed. And I'd like to put it on the potentials list, so I'm asking for a reconsideration of that vote.
All in favor of reconsidering? There's been an objection. The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on
On the vote to place. On the motion. Thank you. On the potential list, motion carries. Thank you. There's an objection. Anything else? Do I hear do I hear a motion to adopt the session agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There's been an objection. Motion.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, wait.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Speaker.
Yes, so the session agenda, the one that you've printed or published or given to us, right, the draft, with the items that we've added today, I'd also like to add an item under the motions that says that what we said in the past, the exact language is the potential items on the attached list, or under motions, it would be a motion to place potential items from the attached list onto the agenda.
Thank you for that, Madam Speaker.
Call for the vote.
All those in favor? There's been an objection. Thank you.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
On the motion, Mr. Chair, to adjourn. Motion to adopt? Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Vice Speaker, you are recognized.
On the motion, Mr. Chair, to place the items as previously been discussed to the session agenda, please. On the motion.
All those in
there
favor?
any objections?
Are there any objections? There's been an objection.
All those.
Motion carries. We're now in extension of remarks.
Motion. Mr. Chair, on the
Motion to
motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
On the motion to adjourn, any objections? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we just did. We just did.
Can we just, for safety purposes,
On the motion to
Thank you.
adopt the session agenda, Mr. Chair.
any objections? There's been an
So-
objection.
so
Motion
call for the
carries.
vote.
Yes. Okay.
On the motion to adjourn now,
Any
Mr. Chair.
objections on the motion to adjourn?
Okay.
No, none carries. Thank you. This meeting at 10:38 Chamorro Standard Time. Thank you for your attendance and participation.